Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News. This is today's news and world news. And, as we got um, Biden's on the campaign trail. Now, don't laugh. I just kind of wish that he would see that he's he's been a politician all of his life, and now the war in the Middle East is widening. It's not widening because of Israel, but because of Joe Biden and Anthony Blinken appeasement. It's for our enemies that need not one, but you could see many wars over in the Middle East now. And you can see how they conduct themselves very differently under the Biden regime and Biden and Blinken and Austin uh, than we did with Donald Trump and Mike Pence, uh, Vice President Pence. Now, nobody really realized that Pence went all over, all over. We never really seen much because they never wanted to talk about him. But he was pretty much foreign policy. And you see between the two that we didn't have all these wars and these, um, those sanctions work. Now we see they work. That's something that has been said over and over again that when we do sanctions on these countries, it works because they don't get all feisty. They don't go out and they don't start blowing up their neighbors, and that's kind of what they're doing. So they do conduct themselves differently. It has consequences for us, not DC. We have men and women that are being shot at on some of our bases. They just exposed this administration that it's gone weak, and it needed and will not attack Iran directly. Now, me and William have stated this over and over again. Iran is the cause. Uh, we have did the JPOA, then we interfered, and then when the inspectors went in, they didn't get to look at everything, and we were okay with it. That's why I said there was an appeasement with during Obama and now the Biden administration. And this has put our troops at great risk from Iran and their weapon system. And the risk of Iran having nuclear weapons, you can only imagine that with Iran uh, has basically conquered Lebanon, Yemen, and Iraq, uh, and Iran owns Hamas, lock, stock, and barrel. They don't just give them equipment without owning them. Iran is that nice. So probably even the Somalian pirates. Remember that they were attacking the same type of ships in that same area about a decade ago. And with these public relations move to make you think that we're doing something like the Houthis, we're on the American terrorism list. We were under Donald Trump. Within 48 hours after he announced that he was set up for an assassination by the Middle East. Within 48 hours of becoming president, Biden removed them and removed all the sanctions. Iran, the fact is also known when it comes to the Houthis. What they did last week was nothing. It had so many expectations putting the Houthis back on terrorism list, but we didn't. And Iran seen it again. They absolutely seen 100%. We just didn't really do much. But then we started the airstrikes. Anybody that sees is the attack by the administration, by Blinken working with the Arab uh, and Biden staffer between the two of them on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He was the director of the committee when Biden was chairman. Now, John McCain, I've pointed out before, he went to the Senate floor in 2014 and did something really extraordinary because Biden and Barack Obama were pretty um, set and wanting to put Anthony Blinken to be Deputy Secretary of the State. That was ended up being Hillary's job. But yeah, as it moved into further down the road, she wanted to campaign, and Anthony Blinken was their pick for Deputy Secretary of the State. And when he rose to the floor of the Senate and became, I said, I rise to discuss my opposition to the pending vote concerning Anthony Blinken, who is not qualified, in fact, in my view, one of the worst selections of a very bad lot that this president has chosen. McCain noted that it was not very often that he openly opposed a presidential nominee on the floor. He warned that Blinken was a danger to the national security and its service members. Why didn't we hear about this? I ran across this and I went, whoa, I didn't know nothing about this. He also warned that he would be dangerous to America and to the young men and women that are fighting right now. So pretty much during the Obama administration, it was Israel was ignored. During Trump, now he went over there and on quite a few visits, but it was his daughter and her husband that went over there quite a few times, which I was very glad of because it kept the flow of talking. I'm not going to say it was that they formed a relationship. I'm just saying they kept that relationship talking, and they really focused, especially on the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And this is a constant thing that flowed all the way through until Biden went in office, and then the doors closed. Another one, it was really surprised me that I ran across was Andrea Mitchell. You remember her, NBC? She's a mouthpiece for Joe Biden. He pays her well. I don't know if you knew that. Andrea Mitchell, if you see her on NBC, she is a mouthpiece for Joe Biden, and she has been doing this for decades. When he was a senator in Delaware, she was a cub recorder in Philadelphia, right on the border. And she writes, Secretary of the State Anthony Blinken dialed a pressure on Netanyahu last Wednesday. The future of Gaza Strip laying bare. There's growing frustrations with Israel Prime Minister's rejection of the proposal last week. The ceasefire, aka surrender to rebuild Gaza, make sure Palestinians control Gaza. Now, didn't we just try that? Gaza to have a second country for the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria. Surrender your own ancestral homelands. That's suicide. The Blinken's comments made during the interview with New York Times. Friedman, Thomas Friedman is really a very stupid man also, in my view. He's handed out, surprises left and right. Many have criticized him. Now, it seems that they're pushing hard to destroy Netanyahu and his religious elements in this Israel war. Because Netanyahu wants to push forth religious, because what is Israel? It's the religious country in the world. And he's got this idea. Does Blinken, as does Biden, did by Mali, by building up Iran, by building up the Palestinians, by building up Arabia, Muslim countries. And if you can believe this tiny little Israel by demilitarizing it like they want, is this even rational? They're emulating their cultures of peace. No, this will break out in insanity. I don't want to go so much into this, um, but you got Andrea Mitchell, you got others that have been. Now, that's why I said Biden is a lifelong politician. He got out of college. He was ready to go into politics, and guess what? When he went and he was all excited, he was a year too young. Go check it out. He had to wait, and then he got in. And like I told you last night, four of the biggest. Um, uh, One was a KKK, a Green Dragon. The other three were big on the KKK and white supremacy and keeping segregation, into the schools. Well, see what they did here, because it was even almost started to continue when the Clintons took over. Because I was like, really, really, are they just now stopped that? Now this is in 1981, folks. We got here. They had finally stopped having um, subdivisions of housing that were just for blacks, and then there were some for just for whites. This is in 81, mind you. And they put schools over there in that little subdivision so the blacks could have their own school and they would stay out of the whites. And that was part of, because Hillary was all part of this too. So was Bill Clinton. That's why what happened with 9th Street. Remember the ballroom? That ended. They cut them off, and it destroyed all the businesses over from 9th Street over. And what part of town is that? That's the black section that was segregated in the 70s and into 1980. And so as he went, and he was a senator, he every time, and he's even got a speech out there about wanting segregation in the schools. He didn't want his kids to go with them, those people. I don't know. Maybe he's having what do you call it? Getting older, and he wants to um, uh, make good on what he's done wrong. And now he's all for the African Americans. But you know what? If you don't vote for him, you're not black enough. That shows you, folks, what this president is all about. Camilla was just as bad. Remember, I'm from California. Her and Nancy Pelosi and Feinstein and Barbara Boxer, they were just like the squad was. But we had that in California. And these women hated. They wanted segregations in our schools. They never could quite bring it back. It ended pretty much in the early 60s in California. They were mad about it. They're career politicians too. So, yeah, and their parents are politicians. Yeah, it just runs in the family, generational politician families. All right. So, um, the illegal immigrant was alluding, he seems to be alluding an upcoming catastrophic event that will provide him notoriety. And he just crossed the border and at the No More Death Camp, about 12 miles east of Sasebe, Arizona. I hope I said that right. Now, according to Joe Felix, he's correspondence media on X, he says. And he said he run across this guy. And when he came across this illegal immigrant over the weekend at the southern border, where he entered the United States with zero regard for procedure or our laws, he joins millions of illegals who invaded the United States. He avoided talking to Felix, the migrant who illegally crossed. He said the United States threatens him all the time. That's why he came up. And then he said, you'll find out who I am very soon. Simply because I asked him where he was from, is what Felix said. And then he looked right into the camera and said, yes, and by the way, if you were smart enough, you know who I am. But you're really not smart enough to know, neither are Americans, who I am. But you're soon going to find out who I am very easily, very soon. Now, if that, see, this is what I've been trying to warn everybody about. We don't know who's coming in. And now we got this guy, oh yeah, something's gonna happen, something catastrophic, something very big, and he's gonna become very famous for it. Maybe he'll just go to Hollywood and become an actor. Who knows? I doubt it. I doubt it. That's scary. That is really scary. I don't know, William, what do you think? Climate alarmists, US and UK militaries, 111 billion in climate reparations. China's state-run Global Times on Wednesday eagerly touted a report from two climate alarmist think tanks, Commonwealth in the United Kingdom and the Climate Community Project in the United States. They claimed that UK and American militaries owe 111 billion in climate reparations. The U.S. military prioritizes it and it perceives strategic interest over evidence of its ecological impact. Nonetheless, the military presents itself as a solution to climate crisis, even if the opposite is true. It conflicts supported by the U.S. and are a source of insecurity, violence, instability that will show us the worst part of the climate crisis. And the military is experiencing it itself. As many of these countries that are migrants, those are the ones that are at war. They did a study on it. Nonetheless, they did a study. And how many of each of these different countries were coming in? And most of them, it wasn't really Mexico, a lot out of South America, but most came in clusters. And a lot of them in fatigues. A lot of them we caught with fentanyl and guns and grenades, mostly fentanyl. We found that there was the majority of the groups that came in outweighed the singles, like three to 4 to 1. Majority, 90% were men. 90% men, so it left 10% women and children. And guess what? There was more children than the women. Now, the climate alarmist. Now, we owe them now. Because when we put the Green New Deal together, it put different spending in different places. We promised them money. You get all this money if you do this. And they did. Now we owe them $111 billion. Oh boy, thank you. Thank you, this administration. Just what we need. Just what we need to hear that one, huh? And it's not really reparations, it's just their payout. They want their payout. So yeah, so we're going to have to watch them and keep an eye on what they want to spend again, because they're going to expand the Green New Deal in this budget they're fighting for. That's what they want. They want to expand it. And I think that's why, if you don't give us money for Ukraine, if you don't give us money for the Green New Deal, then you're not going to close the border. And that's pretty much, that's what I'm hearing. And get this, the last minute, they threw, I think it was 1,000-page Green New Deal extra and said, okay, we're going to vote on this tomorrow. Now tell me who's got the power to read 1,000 pages in less than probably 8 hours. I mean, I can't even read a good novel that quick. 1,000 pages. And they said, no, we haven't seen it yet. We're not doing that. See, that's what the Democrats do with a lot of these bills. That's what Nancy Pelosi, that's her idea, is you get through and you show them little perks that's going on in the budget and all the good, nice things. And then real close to the time they're going to vote, she slams them with 4,000 pages and said, okay, we'll vote on this in 2 days. And they're like, we don't even have time to read that. Not even their own Democrat senators and congressmen. Yeah, okay. So that's what they do. They sneak that stuff in. And that's what Nancy Pelosi did one of the last times. The freaks are multiplying. You know, I'm starting to. Me and Williams talked about our ideas of what happened with the freakies of the world. Uh, is it getting worse? You just watch TikTok and you're going, where did all these crazy people come from? Or serious, not serious, funny videos, or Karens, or crazy Kens, or people going off on cops, and you're just going, where did they come from? I don't remember it like this. Not even under Obama, they weren't that nuts. Until that one lady started screaming and sat down screaming no. I mean, then the crazies came out. But what'd they do? Unleash them from New York or something, or what? Okay, New York's gonna get mad at me for that one. Yeah. All right, I'm moving on. I didn't want this to be so long today. So, um, Israel reveals an underground Hamas rocket production complex. Yeah. Earlier this month, it was reported the IDF discovered a factory for producing rockets underneath the Salah Den Road in central Gaza. They explored the complex further to discover a massive maze of tunnels, workshops, shafts, homes, stores, lined humanitarian infrastructures in the area. Yeah, it was massive. Oh, well, never mind. That would be mean if I said that. Um, as I say, put the Palestinians in there. It's an underground city. No, we don't need them. They're blowing them up as we go. Where should the Palestinians go? Folks, where do they go? Where do we put them? Are they going to be happy? Or are they going to start this all over again? Egypt don't want them. Jordan don't want them. Turkey said, hell no. I'm serious. That's what they said. Hell no. Syria says, Israel said they're out. They're out of here. So where do we put them in Iraq? Iraq hasn't said no yet. And do we give them that state? I don't think Iraq is going to allow that. I'm sorry. They're going to end up in the same situation. William, isn't the Kurds? Isn't the Kurds kind of like that? They got their own little space. Am I thinking right? They got their own little place. and they're getting bombed all the time. Am I right, William? Maybe we'll have to talk about this next time you do a show about the Kurds. And I think there's another one too that recently started going. I think it was getting away from Turkey. I'm not sure. So where do we put the Palestinians, folks? Put it down in the comments. We get some ideas for this. I mean, we could Poland maybe, with or how about Ukraine? Ukraine and with the Ukrainians that get to go back home. Yeah, it's looking like there could be a deal. Could be a deal working. Um, Tesla shuts down a factory as Houthi attacks because of parts shortage. They had to because they're using that flow that the trade route. And now, because they can't use that trade route and they'd have to go in a way other direction, they would have to charge more for their parts. They're already high, is what Tesla said, and they're just forced to shut down the factory till the Houthi quit attacking. Atlas Air Boeing cargo plane suffers engine malfunction, forced to make an emergency landing in Miami. Now, we were talking about this in the last show. We were talking about windblown planes, and some of them that aren't, they're just not doing well. Atlas is one of them. They're now looking at all of their Boeing cargo planes. The planes are getting old. We have to start looking and thinking about when were all these planes made? Why aren't they replacing them or new ones? Replacing the parts can only go so far. Iran proxy stepping on their drone attacks in the war with Israel. And this came out when Hamas used remote control drones to disarm the tank and knock out surveillance cameras during its surprise attack. This was through last week. And then Hezbollah drone from Lebanon landed directly in an army base north of Israel. These unmanned aerial vehicles are increasing, becoming a part of the fight. We've seen this. We've seen this early on with Hezbollah, and even Iran supplying them, and Syria even using them. Now, we've been using them. Now, the Iran proxies are going to step up, and they're going to start getting drones, some suicidal drones and not only that, but they can drop things. They can drop kind of bombs or missiles. They're getting bigger and bigger, like almost an unmanned little what do you call them? Little private planes, Cessnas. They're getting pretty big. So and now they're going to step up. They're going to step up and start using more drones in this war against us in the Arden Strait, or the what's it called? William, oh boy, Hormuz, the Strait of Hormuz. I remembered. All right. So China widens South America trade highway. Yeah, South America fell for it. Oh yeah, the Belt and Road. The Belt and Road group is at it again. And in September, the group of Brazilian farmers and officials arrived in a Peruvian fishing town of Chancay. Megaport rising. Yeah, they're getting their port in there. Yep. Rising on the Pacific coast, promising to turbocharge South America's trade ties with China. That's always how it starts. The port, majority owned, 90%, Chinese owned, from a firm, Costco Shipping. Everybody sees those Costco shipping containers. It'll be the first controlled by China's in South America. And it'll be able to accommodate the largest cargo ships, which could head directly to Asia and flow swiftly and quickly through the straits. And then they're going to start on the Belt and Road Initiative, where they'll start putting in trains. That won't be for quite a few years. They want to get the port in first. Now, what have they done in the past? Well, me and William has always told you they put a port in, and then all of a sudden the military show up, and it's going to be controlled and protected by Chinese military. Then it's all about Chinese workers. Now get this, and I've told you this about Australia. They're doing it to the same people with resources in Africa, now in South America. Is they get in there and they take over their, their gold, their precious gems that people find, and they go in and they say they're going to help them out and they'll buy them a truck, but then they get so much of the profit. Eventually, they take over, and these people have to quit because they can't afford to pay China what they owe them. So, South America, here we go. South America has decided to bring in a port from China. What do you think? Well, I got turbocharged communist military port. Yeah, that's Hormuz. Thank you. I got it right. The Kurds call it Kurdistan. That's the small country with the Kurds. There's another one over there. Weren't they fighting? And I want to say it was over in Turkey, but maybe I'll throw it at William to look it up. Uh, so now when the Trump's got his own investigators, he's got his own. He's got Marines for Secret Service, and of course, he's got his own friends as part of the FBI. Well, he got a very disturbing message that most of the call for Trump's assassination, maybe even they might be able to connect the dots to this gentleman as Alex Soros. It's Daddy, Papa, Grandpa Soros. It's his son, Papa. So he gets the job, and he has been to the White House, according to the White House log, dozens of times during Obama and now during the Biden administration. This is Alex. And he's making calls for it. His thing is, I don't like him, so I say I wish he was dead, kind of thing. But no, they're finding there's a little bit more to that story. Hopefully they can investigate this and maybe have him arrested. You don't play that kind of game, not with a sitting American president. I don't care who the president is. You don't do that. You do not threaten the president of the United States. You don't. Wrong. Okay, Ukraine spy chief. He told this Lieutenant General Kyra Ryolo told Financial Times in an interview describing the most pressing situation facing the country after nearly 2 years of war now. Realize that? They said without mobilization, there's just nothing's going to happen. As a part of the report, the review that Zelensky recently revealed his army chiefs to mobilize about 400,000 to 500,000 new soldiers to replace the killed and wounded ones. The problem is there is none. You tried to paint an optimistic picture at the moment, saying, it's not happening like that. We're going to have to look at our allies, he said, to look to our allies to let them bring in, or maybe NATO to bring in these troops that you require, or we require. So this is a serious number. And so this is kind of some of the info that he took to Davos with him, and pleading for help. It wasn't just for money or a military or planes. It was for their troops, the allies' troops. Will Biden cave into that? And he said he does not think anybody is going to give him any troops. So you wonder how come they're kind of giving him the cold shoulder right now in Davos. Give him a little bit of money and make him go away. Eventually, he's going to have to decide that they don't have the money, they don't have the military equipment, and they don't have the military to run anything. 400,000 they need. Who's going to send that many troops to fight Russia for the United States? I can't see that happening. I don't know, William. I can't see that happening. All right, so now not only did China have a 7.1 earthquake, but they had China had a landslide that killed 31 people, and probably dozens of more than that are injured. Oh boy. Now, boy, this is weird. When I read this, I was like, what? What? They did what? Freed Israeli hostage told Israeli parliament this week about sexual abuse committed by Hamas terrorists against both male and female hostages in Gaza, according to the government. They said they made them dressing up female hostages as dolls. They wanted to look like dolls, like blow-up dolls, and remain very stiff. What? And then abuse them in sadistic ways. Aviva Siegel said she's seen it with her own eyes, who was abducted with her husband and released during the ceasefire in late November. I felt the girls in captivity were my daughters. The terrorists bring inappropriate clothes for dolls, and the girls would turn them into prostitute-looking blow-up dolls. Another thing that they're warning, and this is weird too. That's why I said this whole article was weird. They are warning the United States, if they don't close their border, these people that are coming here, rape will increase 1,000-fold here, like it has there in the Middle East. These are savages that want to be over here. Remember Death to America? Well, it's rape to America too. And it don't matter, men or women, they're just going to capture them and rape them. So you know what? That was what was said. And the whole point of this, so folks, is they said they were going to come over here and increase the rape in America. So that's what they're coming over here to do something. That's why, I said earlier, we just don't know. The numbers aren't pretty. The numbers aren't great. And can you tell? Me and Karen, I put up a whole bunch of pictures of people from the Middle East and South America and Mexico. You can't tell any of them apart. And every single one of these that came over, the men, not the women, but just the men, basically, they speak 3 to 6 languages. So it didn't matter where they got shift to or ended up, they could probably speak the language. All right, oh boy, they're starting it again. Um, thank goodness. Um, uh, I think I'm finished, William. I think I'm finished. Um, so really today, uh, we need to um, be an ally to Israel. Forget Ukraine, folks. Um, this Ukraine isn't going to go nowhere. I can see that. With what's going on with Houthis, Houthis cannot win our country, us and the UK's over there, so is Australia. That's a little. That's like the flies buzzing around our military. The war is going to be China, over there in Taiwan. I don't know. Maybe you'll think that's swatting flies too. War flies. Boy, that's a good word for it, William. Is war flies. That's the Somalians that decide they're going to act up. Boko Haram, they were acting up. ISIS. All these terrorists that create wars, and they swear they're going to win the war against the United States. And of course, they all flex their muscles. Of course, even Iran flexes its muscles, but Iran is making nuclears. So is North Korea, and who knows what China has that we haven't even begun to even think about. Uh, Looking to see what they have underground. Iran has a lot of stuff underground where they're making nuclear weapons. And they share. They share with the terrorists freely. You go shoot a missile. Yeah. Give you the rockets. In fact, go start a war and we'll give you tanks. Everything that we are seeing right now. And as we move over into China and Taiwan, is that going to be the big war? Or are we going to have mini wars? To where they think it's going to weaken us. Because that was one of the strategy that Jinping pointed out. That if they're fighting over here and they're fighting over there and they're fighting over here and there, they won't have the manpower to stop us from taking Taiwan. And after that, we started fortifying military and equipment to Taiwan and South Korea. Started seeing they were building up sand bases, making islands, sand bases, and now a port in South America. Okay, folks, that's it. No show tomorrow. And it just really depends. If we could, I might even have William do a show by himself Thursday. I've got doctor's appointments, and hopefully they'll find out what's wrong with me and I don't know, fix me up, make me better again. So with that, subscribe and hit the like button. Um, Follow us. Share our shows. We got great shows. So with that, folks, we will see you. See you soon. I'm getting ready for trivia for Friday. So have a great Tuesday, and we will see you soon.